Good morning, everyone. And when someone's in the stream, can they let me know how it sounds? Gonna go ahead and set up some things on my end. I'm gonna test this out one more time. Oh, sound works properly. Great. Happy to hear that. All right. So what we are going to be doing here today is we're going to be finding coffees for our December 2025 coffee of the month. So as always, I have a handful of suggestions from you guys on Instagram. If you guys have any suggestions as well, then I will happily take them. We will look through all of the coffees to help pick out which coffees are going to be our nominees. And as always, I have a coffee brewed for today, and that is the Alo Mariga Village. Okay, I guess different name. It's a natural processed Ethiopia from Natswe. So that's the coffee right there. Actually have a bag to show you for a change. So cheers to everyone. And I actually had a brew of that from Airworks a couple of weeks ago. And we do have a suggestion from Connor that says, how about non-Panamanian geishas? I have a few awesome ones from other countries right now. That's a good one. I will keep that in mind. Let me actually pull up my notepad so we can start taking some notes on coffees too. As we're going through a lot of these roasters, we will take a look and see if we can find any non-Panamanian geishas. But I think, as you know, I actually really enjoy reviewing non-Panamanian geishas in general, especially if they're washed. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Let me share the screen here real quick. All right. And perfect. We should be good to go. Okay, the first suggestion we got was from Rising Coffee, and they said Panama maize. So we'll go ahead and take a look at what Rising Coffee has. Actually, I need to copy something here real quick. There we go. And we have reviewed quite a few of Rising coffees at this point, but they've not reviewed this one specifically, and they've not been one of our Coffee of the Month nominees yet. So this is coffee that they're referring to. It is a Hacienda La Esmeralda, a natural processed Panamanian geisha. So doesn't quite fall into and none of the other categories really we have in mind. But we'll take a very quick look at this coffee. Our last couple of reviews have been Hacienda La Esmeralda coffees, both of which have been wash processed. So this one right here could branch out and do some naturals. Unsurprisingly, I have had a very strong preference towards washed Hacienda La Esmeralda coffees for about 10, 15 years now, so that's not really surprising whatsoever. Audio sounds a little choppy. Okay. Last time around, we did not have this issue, so I'm hoping that it's not something that will persist. I'm gonna try and fix the cable this time. I do believe that was possibly the issue and also possibly our service, but let me know if the sound is any better now. Fingers crossed. Yes. Our last stream was the best stream to date, largely because we did have much better audio, and I can hear the difference in how much better the streams sound when the audio is better. I still haven't figured out what the issue is. I thought it honestly was the cable because we sorted out the cable beforehand. So hopefully that's the issue and hopefully it's been fixed, but we will see. Next suggestion we got was from Zach, and they suggested Christmas coffee. So we will take a look for some Christmas coffees. I assumed that this would be one of the top suggestions from at least a couple of people, but let's see what we have. And while we're looking at these coffees, what am I? Yeah. What are you guys drinking this morning as well? I'm always curious to hear what you guys are brewing today. So the first one that does come to mind is from September. And I don't think that they're eligible for our Coffee of the Month nominee, but we'll take a look at what they're currently offering because there's one coffee that's definitely interesting. I've heard a lot of positive things about this coffee right here. September, as I'm looking through your websites on a desktop, I do not like the way that this looks as much as I do when looking at it on mobile. This sure does block a lot of the screens. I'm just saying for this screen. Yes, these are their Christmas coffees, and they are both kind of interesting. So we'll take a look at those. Drinking semi-washed Blanca Nieves from Andres Cardona, Colombia. Okay. Is that one performing like a semi-washed processed coffee? We're in the middle of reviewing a semi-washed Colombia from Doc, funny enough, which is just underneath it. And it is definitely something interesting. We'll probably look at Doc, so we'll probably look at that coffee too, but it is definitely acting like a semi-washed. And Consolol says Milky Cake from Doc. And you know what's funny about Milky Cake is I do need to remember this too. We'll take a look at them too. H&S has a coffee that seems to be pretty similar to Milky Cake. I've heard a lot of positive things about that. I actually ordered that coffee, so we'll be reviewing it, and I'm curious to see how that one is. But I have their Batone coming as well. Sounds nice. And then Jeanette says, Edwin Norena honey processed pink bourbon. Which roaster is that one from? It's a pretty, I want to say, popular coffee as of this moment. We're actually going to be looking at one of the Edwin Norena coffees. I think the September one is an Edwin Norena coffee. Blanca Nieve is super clean. It's technically a co-ferment, but to be honest, you wouldn't know it. Sounds nice, and I need to put an order from H&S. Well, we'll definitely take a look at H&S, so you'll definitely have some options. I know that some of the Colombians can act really clean, and you can get a really nice profile from them. Obviously, the majority of which aren't necessarily that case, so it would be interesting to see. But yeah, let's take a look at these coffees. So we have the candy cane bark and the gingerbread. If I remember, the gingerbread one is the one that I was mostly curious about. So yeah, this one right here we have an experimental honey co-ferment from Edwin Norena, Campo Hermoso, of course. And the notes that they have on here were, I want to say cinnamon roll, snickerdoodle, and molasses. So for context, snickerdoodles are my favorite cookies. Cinnamon rolls are probably my second favorite dessert, and I do like molasses. So in theory, I would like to try this coffee, but I've never had a coffee from Edwin Norena that I've liked. So it would be kind of interesting. I don't know if September is actually eligible for our list, but if they are, I have to put this coffee on here. And I'll also talk to Kyle about any other coffees he might suggest from them. We are working on a couple other coffees, actually. I want to say 3, so we have plenty of September in stock currently. Is this is Steady State from San Diego? Ah, yes, we will definitely take a look at Steady State. So why don't we first take a very quick look at what H&S is currently offering, since we were talking about them. So I'll show you guys the coffees. So I did reach out to H&S and ask for some suggestions, and this is one of the coffees that we're picking up. It's the Blend Cup, for different reasons. This is one that I'm referencing when it comes to Cookie Cake, as this coffee is very interesting. This is coffee. Given that I do tend to enjoy H&S's coffees a little bit more than a lot of the coffee roasters, I'm very curious to see how this is going to compare to the Cookie Cake from Doc. But I've heard good things so far. I've heard some people more than one, so it's one that suggested to people blindly without knowing who it's going to be, but I have a lot of optimism that it'll be good. What else did we end up picking up? We have a watch, actually I want to honey process, more of a watch processed, this one right here. So it says watch, but it's seed processing is anaerobic watch. So this was the coffee that was suggested to us. And it's on this one, which is very good for you know, it's non-traditional hanging coffee, so it's a little bit more stone forward. We reviewed that coffee. Yeah, that's what it is. This is so yeah, we'll take a look at Steady State, and you're drinking the Natural Ethiopia Boku Umbrella from Moro Coffee. Okay, I'm not familiar with that coffee roaster, but have had tons of coffees from Umbella, so I know how good those naturals can be. They can be some of the cleaner ones too. And Connor is drinking the Honduran Gesha from Pilgrim in Philly. Yes, that's a good one too. We'll take a look at them. So we have bunch of coffee roasters to actually take a look at right now. Steady State. Steady State has been a nominee, I wanna say a couple of times, maybe all the may as many as 3 times, and have still never won our Coffee of the Month poll. I just think that obviously the poll can be a popularity contest at times, so if we pick less popular coffee roasters to compete against each other, sometimes that gives them an opportunity to win. This is an interesting sounding coffee, assuming it's not processed, though it might be, anaerobic semi-washed. Yeah, could end up being a little bit cleaner. Bone Ahi. So they have some pretty solid coffees. It is wild to me to kind of look and see what's Mr. Lasso coffee. $36 to $38 a bag. Not because it's overly priced, but because I'm still used to a lot of the Sweet Bloom offerings we had back in the day, which were about, $15 to $18 for every single one of their offerings. But I know the price of coffee has changed. I just hope that the majority of that goes to the producers because they definitely deserve it. All right, let's see what else we have. So, Connor suggested from Pilgrim in Philly. My typing this morning is terrible. Is it this one? I want to write this coffee down actually, because I really like. Well, I've had good results with Arturo Pasa's coffees. It's Benjamin Pasta that I've had the best results with, but that sounds very lovely actually. Separate category, but also write it down. I'm offering Mara too. A washed Mexican coffee. It's some nice sounding phrases of this moment. Unless I'm mistaken, first, I don't think we've actually reviewed any other coffees. Drinking Wilton Benitez Red Bourbon Thermal Shock from Fried Hats. Oh, yeah. Take a look at what Fried Hats has real quick. I don't know if they have any of these coffees. Wouldn't surprise me too much if they did. It's also interesting to me that they Omni profile their higher end offerings. Because here we have Armour, and I don't think I've ever seen that in Omni profile for most covers. Really, as simply as Omni for most. Doing maybe it's just a character, out of curiosity. Or it's just somebody trying to get me to drink more decaf possible to sound. Alright, let's try this again. Do you think it's the cable? Is that by chance anywhere? I'm curious to how good the sound is because if it's really, really bad and I need to stop streaming, that's unfortunate because we have a lot of coffees and coffee roasters to take a look at. So hopefully, like, the audio, if it's the internet issues, then that's very unfortunate because I should have a pretty good connection. Seems like it could be a connection issue. The video is a little choppy too. Speed test real quick. The upload speed, the speeds look good. We tried this, we tried fixing the cable. Sounds marginally better, maybe. I checked the speed test. The speed test is running really good, so I don't think it's the internet. I think it might still be the cable, but it sounds like we haven't necessarily fixed the cable issue yet either. Let me know what you guys think. We can't I sound good now. Okay, that's great. Hopefully that fixed the issue, and hopefully it doesn't come back. Alright, so let's pick up where we left off, though. We were looking at, the Wilton Benitez from Fried Hats. And yes, it is a decaf coffee. You're coming through pretty clean. Perfect. Very happy to hear that. We will continue with the stream now. I wonder if that might have been the issue, but yeah, speeds are looking good. Cable's looking good. Everything's looking good, so it should be better now. All right, Connor said he opened the Doc cardamom bun yesterday. Very Christmassy. That was the other big Christmas coffee that we need to take a look at. So let's pull that one up. Was it Airworks was trying really hard to push this coffee on us, and I said to them, the only way we're grabbing this coffee is if it wins the Coffee of the Month poll. And I know that if we put it in that poll, there's a very strong chance that it'll end up winning. But luckily for us, or unluckily for us, the Coco Bongo won earlier this year, so Doc is ineligible for a second coffee. But for anybody that does want something overly Christmassy, here you have the cardamom bun from Doc, a believe co-ferment processed Colombian coffee. Co-fermented with cardamom, cinnamon, and orange. Extra sweetness as we need. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Next up, we have, let's see here. John Bailey Images says, my coffee is from my own roastery, but our website is bad. I built it. So I'll wait to suggest us until I can handle the criticism. A lot of people, so many people have suggested their coffee to us. And long before maybe some bigger named coffee roasters have sent us coffee, we've had samples from other people. Obviously, anything that we do end up getting, we pay for. So I would like to believe that any sort of feedback or criticism is constructive because there's no reason to be overly harsh or critical. Even with some of our least favorite coffees this year, I feel like maybe we haven't been as harsh as some people might expect. But yeah, let's see what else we've got. So We got a comment that says, "Just opened the Wash Armor Firestone from Datura Coffee. It's delightful." Hi, this is gonna sound stupid, but I can't remember whether or not we actually reviewed that coffee, so I'm gonna take a look. We've reviewed so many Datura coffees this year, and I can't remember if that specific Gesha was one of them. No, we have Elita, Altieri. The first washed Panama we reviewed from them was Esmeralda Leon, which is actually one of my favorite Panamas we've reviewed this year. So I love reviewing Firestone. Ever since Firestone won Best of Panama a couple of years ago, I've been a big fan of their coffee. So let's take a look. And Smearjal says, "Are you going to check out still coffee roasters from New Zealand?" Yes, and they were one of the ones that were suggested to us. So we'll take a look at them. A lot of the notes we have on here is that people are happy and the sound's coming good, it's, coming through well. So very happy to hear that. And John's going to reach out to us this week to message us with that. So I will await your message and we'll move on from here. So we're going to keep the Christmas coffee theme in mind. While we're looking through a lot of these coffee roasters, we will see what else we might be able to find. So as of right now, we just have the one from September, which I don't even think is eligible for a coffee of the month poll anyway. So if you guys know of any Christmassy coffees, then let us know and we will take a look at them. But the next suggestion we had was from Simcosi and they suggested Scenery. So happy to take a look at Scenery. Oh, so still is from Netherlands. My mistake. I think I was that's on me for assuming that was New Zealand. And we do have quite a few suggestions for still. So once we get to them on our Instagram suggestions, and we'll take a look, but we'll move through for right now and see what Scenery's offering. So quick comments on Scenery. We do have a couple of their coffees currently, so it's unlikely that we will pick anything from their current offerings if we did just place an order from them. One thing I wanted to tell people is that it's actually pretty solid ordering from Scenery in the United States because we split an order with Airworks, and I don't remember how much the shipping cost was. I want to say it was a little under 20 pounds for 4 coffees total, which I know is a lot for some people, but all things considered, that was everything. So that was still while there were tariffs, and as a result, we were able to split the cost of the shipping and the coffees. So not bad. I know the shipping was cheaper before adding on Airworks coffees to it as well. We ended up ordering the 4 coffees, and I contemplated brewing this one for today's video, but I opted for the Nut Sway coffee instead. This is one we had last time around for our last stream. I think it was actually this one. That was this one. They do have a Christmas themed coffee. So we'll write it down. I'm glad we looked at their website. That fits with our theme. A lot of people that don't know, they've actually put a little bit lighter on the profiles of their copies too. As you can see here, they now have listed the lightest, so it's going even lighter than what their light profile was. And you can notice there's definitely go with that theme. Uh, my coffees that have gingerbread notes to them. I have a bunch of Churro coffees too. I imagine that had we ordered from them more recently, they might have suggested one of the Churro coffees instead. The coffees that they did suggest to us were no longer available, but it was the Joe Airbus honey processed coffee, and then it was the Gondo, a wash processed Kenyan coffee. So neither of those are currently on the website. I bet Brandywine has some funky Christmas thing. Absolutely do. And thank you for reminding me. When preparing for this stream, I remember thinking to myself that Brandywine was going to have something Christmas themed. I think they have something like a Christmas scope with the movies. So let's see what we got. Very on Christmas. And it's got it. There it is. And it's another comment. I think that the packaging is 10 out of 10. Like, that's really cool. It's very nostalgic for anybody that does not remember the Coca-Cola polar bear commercials from back in the day. I think it's the same coffee too. Co-ferment, orange, and I assume cinnamon. So the same one as Doc. I'll happily put it on the list. Brandywine does terrible in these polls, but it's ideal for the theme. Okay, let's see what else we've got. This one I found to be a very interesting suggestion, and it was from Arabica Stand, and they said Julian Comfort Roast. So I was thinking about this all morning on how I wanted to approach this or how I wanted to go about this. So I do think that my profile is a little bit, it has a bigger range than a lot of people. So there are a lot of people that have a very strong preference towards either extremely light profiled coffee. So, the picky chemist, substance, that sort of profile. And then there are a lot of people that's a little bit too light for them, and they still like to stick to the more, I want to say, traditional light medium profile, which both of which are fine. I feel like my preference actually does have a pretty wide range because I do enjoy coffee roasters like 43 and H&S is one of my favorite coffee roasters in the world, which are very, very light coffee roasters. But then on the opposite side of the spectrum, I do enjoy places like Claremento is probably the most developed coffee roaster I can think of that I've had really good results with, and they do have that Korean profile. So you can see that there's a pretty diverse range of coffee profiles that I can enjoy. And that led me to kind of thinking, what's a coffee roaster? What are some coffee roasters that I really enjoy that maybe aren't necessarily the lightest? And the first one I came up with was Blind Tiger Coffee. Now, we have not reviewed one of their coffees in a while, and I'm not by any means saying Blind Tiger is overly developed or anything like that. It's just in comparison to the Picky Chemist, 43, they're not going to be anywhere near as light as them. But I very much enjoyed a lot of the coffees that we have had from them, and it would be ideal if they had something Christmas themed, but it does not look like they do. We've reviewed La Colina in years past. I've said before that I really love their Ethiopian coffees. They do some of the best washed Ethiopian coffees out of any coffee roaster, but if we're going with this theme, and I find it to be a pretty interesting theme, then the only thing I can think of from them right now would be El Sauce. And I would have to think of a couple of other coffee roasters that fall into this Julian Comfort Roast category, and there are a handful I can definitely think of. So this was blasphemous to say in today's, or it would have been blasphemous to say maybe 10 years ago, but Heart isn't necessarily as light as a lot of the other coffee roasters that we review, and when we started making Hearts, they were considered to be one of the lightest roasting coffee roasters in the United States. So times have definitely changed. I remember my friend Greg was looking at one of this one right here, an interesting sounding Honduran combination of SL28 and Kakas. So between that and the Ethiopia, which is a very nice sounding Ethiopia, we have a couple of options with there. So for whatever reason we do go with this theme, then I'm going to write that down as well. And then what other coffee roasters can I think of off the top of my head that maybe not necessarily as light as a lot of the other stuff we review? I will think on that. Let's move. Next suggestion we had was from Gavin, and they suggested small US-based coffee roasters or uncommon varietals. And trying to think what would fall into that theme. So the first thing that could fall into that theme would be Rising, which is the first coffee roaster that we looked at. Pilgrim also falls into that theme. So we have a couple of options right there. And I'm going to actually write both of those down because I never hate that idea, largely because I do like the idea of promoting smaller coffee roasters, and both of which fall into that category, and both of which have some interesting sounding coffee. So they also fit with that Getcha theme. So definitely an option that we could explore right there. Uncommon varietals too is one that I always really like. So Gavin suggested two themes that I always really like. And if I can ever combine those themes, uncommon varietals from smaller, less known coffee roasters, I enjoy reviewing those on their own as it is. So I definitely like that suggestion. And now we have our first suggestion for still coffee roasters. So we had a couple of suggestions for still coffee roasters, but this is the first one, and it came from Sabri. So let's take a look. And if somebody can explain to me why still right now has a roasted mechanism, usually when a lot of people are suggesting one specific coffee roaster, there's a reason for it. And let me know if I'm on the correct website too. This does look familiar, so I'm wondering if we had looked at them previously, perhaps during the last stream. But another washed Hunter and Gesha. So I feel like the exact theme of Penman as well. It's correct. That's what the machine still uses. I have no idea actually. I always wished that that was going to be one of the things a lot of coffee roasters would post right at the forefront of their website was what roasting machine they use, because I do think that's a little important. Kind of looking through their offerings. Yes, man, just this one is here probably the most my type of coffee actually, because it is a harsh Panamanian non-niche coffee. And then outside of that, we have another coffee that falls into one of the themes we've had already today, which is this Hunter and Gesha. A couple of Hunter and Geshas. Between the two, I'll probably lean towards this one. They have a nice mix and interesting mix of coffees. So that would fall into our category with the Arturo Paz Gesha from Pilgrim. So we'll write that down. We have about 3 or so kind of half filled out themes. So I think what's going to be a tiebreaker is if we can figure out which one of these is one that we'd prefer to go with. So the themes we have are still the Christmas theme, and we have 2 coffees from that that we know for sure we can use, which is the Scenery Columbia and then the Brandywine Christmas coffee. And then we have the Julian Comfort Roast theme, which right now has Blind Tiger and Heart. And then we also have the small coffee roaster theme. So we have like 4 partially filled out themes. The small coffee roaster theme with Rising and Pilgrim, and then we also have the non-Panamanian geshas with the Pilgrim coffee and now the still coffee, which are both Honduran and geshas. So kind of interesting. Audio going a bit choppy again. I hope we didn't mess anything up. Still uses roast and stronghold. Good stuff. John says, okay, fine, I'll send it. I own Lantern Coffee in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We roast on a 1980 something IR12. Yeah, we can definitely take a very quick look at that. And I might be a little critical of the website. We'll just see how bad the website is. But if it makes you feel any better, there are websites we've seen that are probably a lot worse than what we're looking at here. The Diego Bermudez Native. Native has my least favorite website I've seen from any coffee roaster. This isn't that bad. I'm not. I might not be the most critical person when it comes to the coffees themselves. I can be a little understand, but when it comes to websites, I definitely feel like I'm a little bit more harsh on those. But this website is not bad at all. You can read the coffees, you can search through it. It's really easy. So we have Go Ferment. This is what you heard from second. I love my roasters. That's pretty well established. Does specifically have listed clean finish. I think just one thing that I might have a little bit of feedback on is that unfortunately it does not look like there's a lot that would fall into one of our other categories, but it wouldn't fit into the small coffee roaster category. So I can write that down with Pilgrim and Rising. Having suggested the non-Panama Gesha theme, I feel like I'd lean towards Christmas coffee. That becomes a lot less relevant in January. Okay, that's good to know, actually. You are right. A lot of the themes can fit outside of just December, but the Christmas theme, the uh, spooky theme back in October, those are usually pretty good for the specific month that they're in. Jacob says, Mira has some Jose Hijón. I know you usually find that comforting. So, yeah, let's take a look. We have a lot of coffee from Mira. And it just kind of happens to fall that way for a couple of reasons, but I've heard Mira is supposed to start offering some even more interesting coffees here soon. Yeah, there's that Jose. Oh no, 29, 28, almost 4. Good size. 125. That's kind of normal. We're working on this coffee from a couple of coffee roasters currently. Hydrangea is one. Yeah. Is this just specifically San Pedro? I might reach out to Mira and ask because it's not too often that you see them separated. You see Surya and San Pedro together these days, so Putushio, but I think this might be just San Pedro actually. This is one of the coffees we're reviewing right now. This is another one of the coffees we're reviewing, and we got this one in the mail yesterday. So I love these Taiwanese coffees, the first couple of Taiwanese coffee reviews. And John, yeah, happy to take a look at it. So you could entirely be in our theme this month too. We'll see what happens with that. Have you worked through have you worked your way through all the coffees from LAKA Halloween themed? I think I want to pull up. So Jacob says they believe it's just San Pedro. I'm trying to pull up what we're working on or thinking of what we're working on right now. I do think we're done with all of the really rough processed coffees because we had that back-to-back release of really intense processed coffees, the one from Datura and then the one from 43. In addition to that, we finished the Kofferman from Moonwake. So I think that all of the heavily processed coffees we're done with for right now, but it was a good month to get through all of those because yeah, it's not something that we usually go for. Okay, let's move on, see what else we've got. All right, so we got another suggestion, and this is from a lot of these names are a little bit tricky to pronounce. Triantafiolas, and they suggested check if you'd like Cafes El Significo Roaster. They have some exclusive Christmas releases. Perfect. So we can go back into that Christmas theme. And Connor, one thing about that non-Panamanian Gesha theme is we just happened to find some really good coffees from coffee roasters that were suggested to us as well. So it actually fit really well this month too. It's just unfortunate maybe that I shouldn't say unfortunate, but tricky given what month we're in. Normally it would be a slam dunk of a theme too because of combination of coffee roasters suggested and amount of coffees we found so far. Okay, I assume that this is probably going to be their Christmas coffees. I'm wondering what makes them Christmas themed other than just being listed under their Christmas section. They do have their Navidad blend, which would fall into that category, but why don't we take a look at one that maybe sounds something I'd be interested in. Okay. I mean, the profile sounds pretty Christmassy. I think the only thing I'm falling into with this one is I don't really know what makes a lot of these coffees Christmas related. I'll write them down regardless so I can take a more thorough look at them. Okay. And then we did get another suggestion for still roasters from the Netherlands, so we took a look at them. Actually bought a bunch of coffees from Still, excited to try them soon enough, probably in January. And what's the big thing about Still right now? Because we looked at them previously and we got a lot of suggestions for them this month. So is there a specific reason why they're, I want to say, trendy or popular right now? Usually, when that's the case, there's something that's going on with the coffee roaster. Either they're gaining more notoriety or they've released something that's really interesting. There's usually something, or they won awards. That's something that usually happens a lot. A lot of coffee roasters will become a lot more prominent after they've won awards. And then I think we just have a couple of suggestions left. And yeah, we don't really have a full theme just yet. But this one came to us and it said Finca Hartman or Me Finquita Geshes or Panamanian SL34 Katuai coffees. And they mentioned two specific roasters, so Loishfoya and Rose. And I greatly appreciate them including a couple of coffee roasters because that makes it easy to find coffee roasters that are carrying those types of coffees. UCTH, if there you go. I just realized that if it's Christmas themed coffees or all the coffees, we probably need to look through all their offerings. Surprising that doesn't remember, Leuchtfeuer actually won the month bowl last year for their Christmas coffee. And in theory, it sounded like a very lovely coffee. The problem was it was just a little more developed than I would have enjoyed. So yes, perfect sounding coffee. Watched Kaiwai Panamanian coffee, but they have the profile listed as medium, and it definitely turned out to be very developed coffee for the last year that was they're currently offering. I wonder. Now, I think most of these coffees were the ones that they were referencing when it came to like Schweiss. So for what it's worth, we usually most of them coffees. We reviewed the one from Leuchtfeuer when it won, or when it finished very high in the list of Panama for non-geckas, and it was lovely. Airworks ordered it last year, and they actually did not give us a sample of the coffee, which is kind of unfortunate. I think that we were going to ask them for a sample, and I don't know what happened. But never did try last year's version of the coffee, but 2 years ago's version, or 3 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, was incredible. It actually ended up in our top 10 coffees of the year list because of how well executed it was. Let's take a look at Rosso. And where are they out of? Zurich, that's correct. So all it has to be a champagne coffee. It's a natural try. I have noticed that they do tend to skew on the very processed coffees side of things. I think I'm actually familiar with this Panamanian coffee. interestingly enough. Milk Cumbres. Unless it comes from a producer that I'm familiar with, I've just never heard that one before. One thing for anybody that does not know, Kumquat actually does carry rose a lot of the time. So we look at Kumquat's website real quick. Rogue Wave has a carbon washed. Yeah, I'll definitely take a look at that. Speed Racy says, I remember last month you said uh, you had said, mistake, you were going to be trying quite a bit of shoebox. How'd that go in your opinion? Good question. So we're still working on two of their coffees. I actually just opened up two of their coffees, and I went through last month which coffees we were working on from them. So one of which is the Hachi coffee, and as of right now, I feel like that might be my least favorite coffee that I've had from Shoebox, but it's still early. It's only the second time I've brewed it, and it's very hard to judge Shoebox based off of trying their coffees just twice. Outside of that, the Caballero review, I think, is the one that we have coming out on Monday. So that was a pretty good coffee, just as a little bit of a spoiler. And I liked the way that the review turned out on that one as well. One of the other coffees we're working on is the Ngise Nari, and I'm working on that with the Hachi. And I had one incredible result with that coffee. That coffee is a very nice natural, and I was very curious to see how their naturals would go. So a lot of positivity on that one. And then I think we have one other coffee of theirs, and it is the Outgrowers wash processed Ethiopian coffee. That one was a little bit tricky for a lot of the time, but towards the end, we've almost finished all of our notes for that coffee. It turned out exceptionally well. So I would say, with the exception of Hachi right now, we've had either above average or really good results with the majority of their coffees. So yes, as mentioned, Kumquat does have quite a few of these coffee roasters that we had mentioned, but Rose is the one that we're looking at here. And maybe they no longer carry Rose. Their website's just really big now. This is where we picked up Rose for the first time. Looks like they have a lot of their offerings currently. Wow. Yeah, so anybody that wants to try out Rose, I've heard that they are a little bit more developed now than they were in the past, but I really can't say for myself, having not tried their coffee in so many years, but it'd be unfortunate. They do have some interesting sounding coffees currently, though, so yeah. And while we're on the subject of multi roasters, why don't we take a look at what a couple of our, I don't want to say favorites, but Alno is definitely one of our favorites. What some of the American multi roasters are offering. Last time I looked at Honda's website just a couple of days ago, they definitely had some things that I was pretty interested in. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in our upcoming not coffee of the month, our monthly recap video. We might be switching brewers. I'm running low on UFO filters, and I don't know if I want to get any more UFO filters or if I just want to switch altogether to a different method. But one of the reasons I was get on the website is because I am giving heavy consideration to switching that brew method to the Araya. So I was looking at the website for Arayas. Are these new? I don't think these were on Otto's website the other day. Okay. Let me know how you guys feel about the Julian Comfort roast, because now we have options for that Julian Comfort roast. I remembered when going to that website that I was thinking about Nomad coffees. They had a bunch of Nomad coffees too, and some of which I was interested in. But saying these Luna coffees has immediately caught my interest. This one specifically. So that would give us 5. We have Heart, Luna, Blind Tiger, and Nomad. It's not an overly Christmassy theme, and none of the coffees are particularly Christmassy, but all these fall into that specific category. I have been wanting to revisit Nomad Perfect. They haven't reviewed one of their coffees in quite a while. Swirl also falls into that category, kind of. Swirl's a little light, but maybe not as light as a lot of people would like. Ondo has some great offerings right now. I'm not just saying that because I like Ondo. I literally am impressed by so many of their coffees right now. And I may even order the Maria filters too. Potential big Ondo order coming. Big look at our boy Pop too. I wouldn't mind the way of one copy of them on Civics. They ran and purchased filters from them too, so I would be more than happy if they won this month poll. Sets were meant to navigate on desktop because the header blocking everything is radio. That's the one we're looking for. And unfortunately, it sold out. Otherwise, that one would have fit our theme. I like that was just staring over the face. And Easy Burner says revisit Onyx. I would love to revisit Onyx actually. When is the last time we reviewed a coffee from Onyx? That's what I would like to know. It has been 4 years. I have not had a coffee from Onyx in 4 years. Let's hope they have some sort of sustained coffee. Oh yeah, they're Krampus coffees. And they're family. Expressive dark. So I will take a look back and see which coffee roasters have won our Coffee of the Month polls. Because if September or Doc haven't within the last year, though I think both of them have, then they're ineligible. But we have at least 3. We have Onyx, we have Brandywine, and we have Scenery. And we just need one more. So if you guys can find one more from a coffee roaster that has not won one of our Coffee of the Month polls, then we will do the holiday theme. Now, if Onyx were to win, I would probably want to buy one more coffee from them. It's probably not likely I'll enjoy the family, so I'm trying to think of which coffee we end up getting. This is one of the main reasons why we started steering away from Onyx in the past was they started to skew heavily towards processed coffees because there are very few coffees on here that are washed. And then profiles them in moderate to high. Yes, where Genesis was lost. Expressive dark, expressive light. Expressive moderates. I'm having a very hard time finding one coffee that I'm interested in finding out from them. I guess this Kenya, that's probably my top pick. I think it would just end up being at Kenya, which is unfortunate because I would want to do one of their water processed coffees. And then one other multi-roaster we'll look at is Dayglow real quick. Just curious what Dayglow is offering. And I do believe we got through all of the Instagram suggestions. Yeah, there was the other one that was from Kimmy Harrison, and they suggested festive coffee. So it was along that Christmas theme, which, again, if we can just find one more, then we will do the Christmas theme, holiday theme this month. I think what might end up happening with Auto is I might just end up ordering from them because they have a bunch of coffees that I'm interested in. So even though that doesn't, it won't end up being a coffee of the month theme, I just found so many coffees that I want to try. Um, One other thing I might do is I might just put out a question on our Instagram to see if anybody has any other Christmas themed coffees. What will likely end up happening is we'll get a bunch of suggestions from people. Oh, Manhattan has one. I think that Felice Navidad is. I think it's a yearly coffee. Tim Weddleco has one. Is Tim Weddleco. I think it's something we've already reviewed, but we will take a look. Yeah, we've reviewed Chop in the past. Have we reviewed El Puente? That falls into that category of Honduran gestas, I think that's why. This is one, the El Puente gesha. That's a really good theme. Honduran geshas. We found 3 Honduran geshas to make for a really good theme. It's unfortunate. And then Manhattan might be the last one. So I think the way we're going to go about this is we put out a questionnaire on Instagram to see if anybody else has any other Christmas suggestions, and then we will go from there. We'll create the poll and decide which of those coffees. I'm gonna take a look at Ondo's website and figure out which coffees I want to purchase from them. But we have 3 as of right now, and I'm not entirely sure if we're going to utilize all 3, but I will double check and make sure that we have used September and what's the other one I'm thinking of? Doc. But I know we have with Doc because of Coco Bongo. So the coffees we have are that Columbia Christmas coffee from Scenery, the Christmas coffee from Brandywine, and Framley from Onyx. So we'll put out the poll, see if anybody has any other suggestions, and yeah, we'll stick around for just a couple more minutes if somebody wants us to take a look at anything else, but we'll take a very quick look at Passenger since that just came in as a suggestion to us. They would fall into our Julian Comfort Roasts category. They also fall victim to the same thing that Tim Whittlebow does, and that they have relationships with a lot of these producers, which is a great thing. I love to see that. However, it often means that they don't carry a lot of new coffees year after year. Though they have a lot of Indian coffees now. This means that a lot of the coffees we've reviewed from them already in the past, like Jose Salazar. Oh, they do have a holiday coffee. I wish a lot more coffee roasters would not make their holiday coffees their more developed coffees, but this one right here sounds nice. We have just a wash processed Ethiopian coffee. Yeah, I'll happily write that one down. Prata from Tim Winlebo is an excellent Kenyan coffee. The El Puente Catuai is also a lovely sweet coffee. I don't think we've reviewed any of the El Puente Tim Wendelbo coffees, so that could be an option. It didn't look like Ondo had any Tim Wendelbo on their website right now, which is unfortunate because I would probably add that Honda and Gesha to it. John says, good stream today. Lots of interesting coffees. Absolutely. So it does look like we will unfortunately be skewing away from the small coffee roasters seen this month, but I'm pretty sure some point next year we will do that. So if that's the case, definitely suggest Lantern for it, and we will see if we can include them. And Connor, they do have a holiday blend. Yeah, they did if we're referencing Passenger, but yeah, we have 4 of them. I'll still put out the question largely because I want to see if anybody has something from a coffee roaster that we haven't looked at today, but we'll end the stream right there. A little over an hour here, and we have some pretty good suggestions. So, as always, thank you guys for participating in the stream. I will put out that questionnaire here in probably just a couple of minutes, but thank you everyone for contributing, and I hope you have a great day.